The Complete Guide to the TOEFL IBT Test, Lesson 12, Reply Questions. Reply questions ask you to focus on a short portion of a conversation or lecture that you just listened to. You see the photograph of the speakers again, and you hear, but you don't read. A few lines of the conversation or lecture a second time. An icon of headphones tell you when you will hear the replied section. Reply questions can be phrased in number of ways. Why does blah 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 say this? Why does blah 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 mean when she say this? What does blah 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 imply when she say this? Mean, imply, say. Reply questions ask for various types of informations. Some of these questions ask you about the speaker's motivation for mentioning certain information in a lecture. Motivation. The answers usually begin with an infinitive explaining possible purposes, such as to explain, to summarize, or to indicate, and so on. Oh, the answers. The answers. Some of these questions ask you about language functions. Speaker's motivation, and this time is about language functions. Is the speaker apologizing, changing the subject, complaining, clarifying, asking for more information, making a suggestion, expressing doubt or uncertainty, interrupting, showing impatience? Some of these questions ask you what the speaker means or implies when she or he says something. These questions often ask you about an idiom or some other set of expression that the speaker uses. What the speaker means. I'm going to ask Michael if he'll help me with this problem. Save your breath. He's way too busy this week. The idiom say save your breath means don't waste your time. Some of these questions ask you about language that can have different meanings in different circumstances. The context of the conversation or lecture, as well as the speaker's tone of voice, stress on certain word or phrases, or intonation tells you which meaning the speaker intends. Here are four short conversations that all use the phrase "I'm sorry," but each of the four senses, the speaker's intention is different. Yeah, the same words, same phrase, but different intention. Okay, listen to these four conversations in the audio program.
Listen to the following short conversations. Pay special attention to the way the phrase "I'm sorry" is used. Conversation number 1.
You know, Donald, that's the second or third time you've turned in an assignment after the due date.
I know, Professor Dorn, and I'm sorry. I really am. I'll try not to let it happen again.
Conversation number 2.
Next, I want to talk about a process that's important, that's of central importance to all living things that breathe oxygen anyway. That's the Krebs cycle.
I'm sorry, Professor. The what cycle?
Conversation number 3.
Hey Laura, you want to go skiing up at Snowberry this weekend with my roommate and me?
I'm sorry, I wish I could, but I've got to hit the books this weekend. I have a big test in my calculus class on Monday.
Conversation number 4.
University Recreation Center, Jill speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'm calling to reserve a tennis court on Friday morning at 6:30 a.m.
At 6:30 in the morning? I'm sorry, but we don't even open until 7:30.
In the first conversation, the student is apologizing for turning in his assignment late and saying that he will not do so again in the future. In the second conversation, the student does not understand the phrase the Krebs circle, and the student is asking the professor to repeat the phrase. In the third conversation, the woman is turning down an invitation to go skiing because the woman is studying for her next exam in calculus. In the fourth conversation, the woman is explaining to the man the reason he cannot reserve a tennis court at that time because the facility isn't open then. There are two slightly different formats for reply questions. Reply question type 1. In the first type, the narrator asks a question first. You then hear one line of the conversation and lecture and answers the question. Reply question type 2. In the second type, the narrator tells you to listen again. You hear a short portion of the conversation or lecture. After that, the narrator asks what does the speaker mean when she say this. Then you hear one line from the conversation or lecture one more time. Reply questions require close word-for-word listening. And remember, you can and you should take notes during the reply. In fact, you should try to write down as much as possible of what the speakers say during the reply. Here's an example of the reply question based on part of the lecture from the listening preview test. Sample item.
The speaker say this.
This subzone, well, if you like variety, you're not going to feel happy here. You can travel for miles and see only half a dozen species of trees. In a few days, we'll be talking about the tropical rainforest. Now that's where you'll see variety.
Why does the professor say this? To explain when he finds the taiga less interesting biome than the tropical rainforest. To emphasize that this subzone is far less varied than the tropical rainforest. To explain to students why he is talking about the taiga today, not in a few days. To try to encourage students to find out more about different types of biomes. This subzone is like variety, not happy here. See only half dozen trees specific for miles. In few days, talk about tropical rainforest, a lot of variety there. The best choice is second to emphasize that this subzone is far less varied than the tropical rainforest. The professor is emphasizing that there are very few species of trees in this subzone by comparing it with tropical rainforest, where there are many species. He does this by saying that a person who likes a variety of trees would be unhappy to this subzone. Choice 1 is not correct because the professor doesn't say he himself thinks the taiga is less interesting than tropical rainforest. He doesn't explain why he is discussing the taiga today. Choice 3, he simply says that the class will begin to discuss tropical rainforest in a couple of days. He doesn't, in this part of the lecture, urge students to learn more about different types of biomes. Choice 4, there will probably be 4 or 5 reply question in each listening section. Oke, kita artikan dalam bahasa Indonesia campur-campur bahasa Inggris. Jadi di sini kan katanya di subzone itu tidak beragam jenisnya. Nah, yang beragam itu adalah rainforest, tropical rainforest. Jadi ada 2 yang dijelaskan ini ya. Subzone sama tropical rainforest. Nah, yang beragam itu adalah tropical rainforest. Subzone tidak. Nah, pernyataan pertama, to explain why he finds the taiga less interesting. Nah, ini tidak dijelaskan di audio bahwa profesor less interesting kah atau tidak. Seperti di sini penjelasannya, choice 1 is not correct because the professor doesn't say he himself thinks the taiga is less interesting than the tropical rainforest. Ya, tidak disebut ya, apakah interesting atau tidak. Yang kedua, to emphasize that this subzone is far less varied than the tropical rainforest. Ya, ini jawaban yang benar karena subzone memang tidak terlalu bervariasi jika dibandingkan dengan tropical rainforest. Terus ada beberapa penekanan yang seperti not happy here, bla bla bla. Terus ketiga, to explain to students why he is talking about the taiga today, not in a few days. Ini tidak dijelaskan mengapa, alasannya kenapa taiga tidak dijelaskan saat itu. Nah, kita lihat di sini penjelasan yang ketiga. He doesn't explain why he is discussing the taiga today. Tidak ada penjelasannya. Yang keempat, to try to encourage students to find out more about different types of biomes. Nah, ini tidak ada perintah untuk mencari lebih lanjut tentang biomesnya, I don't know. Ya, jadi di sini tujuannya suara ini, rekaman ini, atau profesor ini bermaksud untuk untuk menekankan bahwa yang mana yang bervariasi, yang mana yang tidak bervariasi.